So we are finally back with Ultimate Spider-Man issue 4, and oh boy, let me tell you, this issue really drops some crazy revelations on us and fleshes out this new Ultimate Universe's Spider-Man even further. Now my name is AJ, here at the Hero Informer, and let's get right ahead into it. Now moving over, we begin and see Peter and MJ together, dressed up all fancy at a restaurant, as they are meeting with a special guest tonight. And who is this special guest, you may ask? Well, it is none other than Harry Osborn. And if you missed the last part, which you should definitely go back and check, at the end, Peter Parker and Harry Osborn revealed their secret identities to each other as Spider-Man and the Green Goblin. And as you know, Spider-Man and Green Goblin are famously and iconically arch enemies. But in this universe, the Ultimate Universe, it seems they are going down a different path, as partners and maybe even friends, as Harry invited Peter and his wife MJ to dinner. But of course, Harry Osborn isn't alone, as he also invited his own wife, which she is running a little late, and who she is might even surprise you. But moving over, we see the introduction as Peter finally and formally introduces his wife Mary Jane to Harry Osborn, with Harry saying, "The pleasure is all mine meeting you. Peter has told me all about you, and honestly he won't shut up about it. The man is obsessed, I think." Just going on to show you how well Peter's marriage and even family life has been so far in this universe. But of course, in that infamous Peter luck, you can almost bet money on it not lasting as perfectly any sooner. Moving over though, we see Peter then ask Harry, "Wait, where's your wife? I thought you said she was coming." Harry then responds, "Yeah, she was, but she had a little business thing uptown. She should be here in a few more." Ah, here she is now. Peter and MJ, this is my wife, Gwen Stacy. As we see in this Ultimate Universe, Gwen Stacy is not only alive, but even married to Harry Osborn, which, depending on how the story continues to go, this can get tricky in a lot of ways, cause Harry is the Green Goblin, and of course, Gwen Stacy has a horrible track record with goblins. And with Gwen now being the one to make her introductions to Peter and MJ, they then go to sit down to start their dinner. And as they are enjoying food and starting conversations, the topic of children come up, with Mary Jane asking them if they have any, but Gwen Stacy and Harry Osborn do not. With Peter asking what's the holdup, Harry responds, "The world we would be bringing them into." Which would make sense for a normal response, yeah, but even more so with what Harry knows. You see, Harry in some way or form is knowledgeable about the higher echelons of people and things going on in this world and how it is not how it is supposed to be, hinting at the Maker's doing and shaping this new reality. But with Harry not wanting to give any more information than he has to, he then switches the subject, switching it to Mary Jane. We all know what Peter is up to. Now Mary Jane, let's hear how your business is going, piquing Gwen's interest. You see, Mary Jane in this universe is somewhat of a marketing genius, so she started her own PR firm, which is an interesting line of work, as in most universes Mary Jane is either an actress, model, journalist, or anything along those lines. But with her starting her own PR firm, it's revealed that she has been in talks and helping Uncle Ben and J. Jonah Jameson starting their own newspaper, and they've even come up with a name. And if you haven't been following along in the series, yeah, Uncle Ben is alive in this universe, even worked at the Daily Bugle with J. Jonah Jameson before they eventually quit, and now wanting to start their own newspaper firm where they can report on the unfiltered truth. And with MJ helping them finally pick out a name, it's revealed that it's called The Paper. Yes, as generic as it is, it's just The Paper. And well, speaking of them, you might be asking, okay, well, if MJ and Peter are out to dinner tonight, who is watching their kids? As we cut over back to their apartment, where we see Uncle Ben and J. Jonah babysitting Peter and MJ's kids for the night, as we pick up and see them talking about their name change, with J. Jonah saying, "We're doing the news online, not in print," which I'm still not okay with, and she wants it to be called The Paper. Is that supposed to be ironic or something? Which, yeah, makes sense in the big year of 2024. If they're starting a new news outlet, they wouldn't do print, because come on, let's be real, who still reads newspapers nowadays and doesn't just get their news online? But of course, J. Jonah still isn't too on board with the name, more so he's just accepting it and not liking it. But as he continues to talk with Uncle Ben about it, suddenly we see Peter and MJ's daughter, whose name is just May, speak up saying, "Uncle Ben, is he going to be leaving soon?" Just showing how May really doesn't like J. Jonah. But moving back over to the restaurant where the adults continue to talk, we see them still talking about the paper, and the idea of Uncle Ben and J. Jonah starting their own outlet is cool but can be bad, with Harry Osborn specifically not liking the idea. But with Gwen Stacy having her own interpretation and opinion on it, even going on to say, it depends on what they cover and how deep they like to dig. But I can think of a few reasons why a couple of crusty old guys with nothing to lose could be useful. But then she even goes on to bring up the masked man, or Peter Parker being Spider-Man, that the Daily Bugle, and where they both used to work at, is currently publishing, with her going on to say, if you look at the coverage of it, it's sanitized. It's not that the stories are corporate, which they are, but they are intentionally obtuse. They all miss the point of the masked man, confusing Peter as unknowingly to them he is that masked man. He then asks, which is what? What is the point? Gwen continues to give her perspective on it, saying that he exists for a reason. There must be a point to him, a purpose. For someone or someone's, he is fulfilling a need for better or for worse. Now, I like to think that he isn't a bad guy, but in a lot of ways, him being a good guy would be more upsetting to certain people. It implies that something is wrong with the world, and maybe he is what we are looking for, a cure for what divides us. And with Peter being taken aback and shocked by her almost profound thought process, he says, I can see you thought quite a bit about this. And with Gwen Stacy continuing on, she says, people need heroes, Peter, and if your uncle's going to report on that, good for him. Maybe you can let him use some of your photos. But with her little rant over, Gwen Stacy then decides to excuse herself to go to the ladies' room, which MJ then gets up and follows, leaving the two guys to talk while the two girls go. But with that, we then move back over to the apartment where we see Uncle Ben with the children after J. Jonah leaves, after clearly seeing his presence wasn't that accepted here, especially by May. And even with Richard, their son, picking up on this, Uncle Ben then asks him, what does he think about J. Jonah? With him responding and kind of dodging the personal question, he says instead, I think what you two are doing are really cool, Uncle Ben. And as they continue to talk, you can really pick up and sense how much of a good great uncle Ben is to the children, which is something in canon you really don't get to see at all for obvious reasons, as Ben dying is one of the pivotal moments in Spider-Man's life. And of course with the writers not allowing him to progress to have children, but that is an entirely different topic. Moving back over to the restaurant once more, we instead now pick up in the bathroom, where Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy are, as they begin to talk when freshening up their makeup, that recently Oscorp took over Stain/Stark Industries a few months ago, and since then they have came into a boatload of money, almost too much to know what to do with, and so they need to get some off the books. So after exhausting all the normal charities, donations, and various non-for-profits, she decides to look to invest some money in some other avenues. And now with MJ being the PR management of the paper, Gwen Stacy then reveals and says, I was hoping since you're their brand manager that you could set up something between me and the old grumpy men of the paper. I'm kind of in the mood to see if I can launch a pirate ship. And if this does come to fruition, we could see the paper, Uncle Ben's and J. Jonah's news outlet, get a incredible financial backing, really boosting themselves up to become a major player and possibly even take the Daily Bugle. But of course, that is just my speculation. Going back over to where the men are, Peter Parker and Harry Osborn, we see them just looking at each other, almost staring each other down. With Peter being the first one to ask, what are you smiling about? Harry says, you haven't told her, have you? His secret of being Spider-Man, a new hero of New York. Peter then says, no, of course not. Wait, have you told Gwen? Told Gwen that Harry Osborn is a now vigilante/criminal basically, the Green Goblin. And Harry says yes, he has. He has told her everything. Much to Peter's surprise, saying, oh God, Harry, what are you thinking? Harry says, I'm thinking that I love my wife, and we don't have secrets between us. Are you really telling me you haven't told anyone anything? No one knows your secret identity? Peter then reveals, and is quite embarrassed about it, he says that only other person who knows is his daughter who caught him in the costume. But Peter then says the reason why he hasn't told MJ is not because he doesn't trust her or anything, but it's because he wants to protect her. And with Harry getting serious, he says, do you seriously think you can live this life and insulate the people you love from consequences? Saying that they basically come hand in hand. And Peter retorts saying, I don't even know for sure that this is what I want to do. Whatever this is, referring to him being Spider-Man and a vigilante. And with Harry Osborn brushing this off, saying, I've seen you in action, pal, and yeah, you do. And if I'm brave enough to do it, then you sure should be. And why is this? Because Harry Osborn, at the end of the day, is self-proclaimed just a guy in a suit, whereas Peter, with his abilities, he's a good bit more than that. It is on all of us, pal. It is on us to save the world. And with this taking Peter aback for a second, with this now mention of grandiose plan of saving the world, Peter then says, Harry, for the first time in my life, I am doing something I am good at. Stopping bad people from doing bad things feels right. And what you're talking about, I don't know, it just sounds too big. Almost like it's something I can't do. And with Harry actually being understanding about this, he says, I'm not going to tell you what you have to do, Peter, or how to do it. It is not my place and it's not my call. You have to decide that. Nobody is forcing you to come along for the ride, but if you are, you need to understand where this is headed and what we are up against. As Harry finally starts to spill a little bit about the world they are currently in, these people, they are playing God, and they are playing for keeps. And worse than that, they've been doing it for our whole lives. It's institutional and systematic. But you, Peter, you have great power. And get ready for this, because he drops a ginormous bombshell and says something that might shift Peter's entire worldview. He says the iconic line, and with great power comes great responsibility, which is just a shocker for many reasons, as not only does this iconic line come from Harry Osborn, but in main 616 canon, the person who says this, Uncle Ben, dies. So what does this mean for Harry and his story? Well, we're yet to find out, but just keep this in the back of your mind for future installments. Harry then continues to say, the power, it is such a gift, but only if you use it, leaving Peter dumbfounded with a lot to think about. As we then cut over to later, with Peter and MJ walking home from their little dinner date, they then start to talk about the events that transpired there, with Peter saying, what did you think? MJ responding, they were nice people kind of, but they were actually a little scary. It was equal parts too personal and too intense, with Peter agreeing and asking further, so what did you think about what they were saying, specifically about the world needing heroes? And with MJ being indifferent about it, saying, what do I need heroes for, Peter? I've got you. Not knowing that she is talking to Spider-Man and maybe even encouraging him even further to go down the route of a hero. But of course, that is all as this issue comes to a close. So yeah, there you have it. Issue number 4 of the new Ultimate Spider-Man. Now, while this wasn't an action-packed adventure or anything of the sort, it was interesting as it further explained their ideals and thought spaces behind these characters, and even introduced Gwen Stacy, which can be crazy depending on where they go with this story. But all in all, I enjoyed it a lot. What did you think though? Leave your comments and questions all in the comments down below. And while you're at it, leave a like or even subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want to see more. As always, thank you for watching.